Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another Bulletmarvs video. Today's a collection video, so I'm going to go through my, let's call it Nintendo Handheld collection. Best way to describe it. So we'll start off with the consoles first, then we're going to go through the game. So I'll talk a bit about each console. So, first console that I want to talk about is the Game Boy Color, which I have here in a teal blue. And this is the third iteration of the Game Boy Live. First iteration being the original Game Boy, second iteration being the Game Boy Pocket, and then the third being Game Boy Color, which just added a colour screen, but unfortunately no backlight, so you still need to get one of those light projectors to see. The thing is, still 8-bit console, and one of the games that really sold this were the original Pokemon games. They were massively popular, so people actually ended up buying this version instead. It's similar shape to the Game Boy Pocket, just a bit fatter due to the colour screen, and it takes 2 AA batteries, as you see on the back there. And you know, you've got your power on off there, your volume there, your system link there, and your headphone jack there, as well as a power input at the bottom. And yeah, that is the Game Boy Color. I'm not sure when it was released, really, but this was the Game Boy being one of the best-selling handhelds of all time. There was many iterations of it, so this is the Game Boy Color. Next one I have is the Game Boy Advance. Game Boy Advance was released during the periods of the beginning of the Dreamcast era onwards, and this was a 16-bit handheld, so a lot of the games on this are actually ports from games on the Super Nintendo, which is very good because they end up being cheaper for this. Again, you've got a slightly bigger screen here, you've got your 2 buttons here, and then you've got shoulder buttons here. You have Start Select and the traditional D-pad. This is fully compatible with Game Boy Color games, and also Game Boy Advance. And also you have your on-off switch at the bottom there, as well as headphone jack, as well as a volume. But no actual external power supply. The external power supplies, you would normally get a battery pack, which is then plugged into that if you want to plug it in. And also you have your link cable there, so you can, like, you know, for example, play multiplayer games like Pokemon, Trade and Fight and stuff like that. And again, some of the Pokemon games on this are some of the best, and I really wish I could at least own like Ruby or Sapphire, but I'm waiting for the remix to come out on the 3DS. So, talking about that brings me on to my next one. This is my 3DS console. Here, the 3DS is the upgraded version of the DS console. I'll start talking about the DS. So the DS console revolutionised handheld gaming by giving you touch. So it had a touch screen on the bottom and another screen on top. So DS, meaning Nintendo dual screen. They're all pretty much the same thing. You've got one screen there and one screen at the top, and some games actually utilise all of that there. The thing with the 3DS that they added was the 3D filter. So you use the little toggle on the side there to turn on and off the 3D. You have 3 face buttons there. You have a power button, you have Start, Select and Home. You have a D-pad, and also you have this nice little analog stick which works really well in some games. And also, if we go to the top, you have your card slot there, as well as your power, infrared and Wi-Fi. It also uses styluses like this. There's the 3DS as well as the DS and everything, so with the main touchscreen you do get a stylus with it. And also you've got your right and left shoulder buttons, as well as you've got a power button there, a volume button here. You've got a button for your wireless on one side, volume on the other. And then in here you have a slot for an SD card, which I'm using a 16GB one because reasons. And this came out I want to say the beginning, near enough the end of the PS2 generation and beginning of the 360 generation, stuff like that. I did have an original DS, but unfortunately it snaps and I'm looking for a replacement case. The original DS could play Game Boy Advance games and Game Boy Color games and Game Boy games by just slotting on it, because I had a slot on the bottom. But the 3DS can only play DS and 3DS games. So they're the consoles, and a little bit of a thing here. If you are getting a handheld console like this, you do want to get cases for them. So, for example, I have this, which I picked up very cheap, which was a Pokemon Diamond DS case. Actually meant for the DSi, and also it has room for another stylus there, and as well as an inlay for, you know, the controls and everything, which I don't use. And also a place to put your SD games in, which I always keep in there. I don't put them in the box, so I keep them in there. Okay, now let's get on with the games. Let's start with, I'll just pull a lot out and go through what I've got. Donkey Kong Land for the Game Boy, yep, for the original Game Boy. Jurassic Park, The Lost World. Donald Duck's Quack Attack for the Game Boy Color. Donkey Kong Country for the Game Boy Color. Spy vs Spy for the Game Boy Color. For the original Game Boy, we have Tailspin. And no Game Boy Collection is complete unless you own a copy of Tetris. I'll move on to these ones now, which have all got cases in. Some of these are in quite bad condition. So it's like I've got Super Mario World there for the original Game Boy. Then I have two pirated game cartridges, 32 in 1. Here. If I can just open the case. Wow, you've just seen me struggle on camera. Well done. You have 32 in 1, and it shows games like, well, Bugs Bunny, NFL Football, the Twin Gun, and just very random games. Just more or less a collection of Game Boy games mainly, like some mainly rubbish and then the odd good one there. And this one I picked up at like a car boot in, well, a Rommelmarkt in the Netherlands. We would know them in England as car boot, and you would know them as like flea markets in America. And I picked this up for like 50 cents, 50 euro cents, and that's 33 in 1. But I got it because it's a Turtles theme one, so it's 33 games and one of them is Turtles, and it is actually quite a good game. So that's the Game Boy and Game Boy Color collection that I have. Okay, let's get on to the Game Boy Advance. I'll start with unboxed. So I have Super Mario, well, Mario Kart Super Circuit, Crash Bandicoot, Entranced, and these are all original, they're not knockoffs at all, because they have actually been stamped as well. And I've got Spyro, A New Beginning. There. As for my boxed Game Boy Advance games, let's start with this one. Boxed and complete version of Golden Sun. So the first game in the series. These are very, very good RPGs, and these are also worth picking up the Game Boy Advance player for the GameCube for as well. So that's Golden Sun. Not complete, but so I am looking for the manual. Well, I've got the manuals for it. I just need the actual box inlay for Final Fantasy 1 and 2 download sales. So these are Final Fantasy 1 and 2 games on the Game Boy Advance. And what I'm very proud of, and I don't tend to notice the sticker, I actually only paid like €5 for this complete box. The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past plus the Four Swords Adventure, and again complete in box, very, very nice condition. and I make sure that this always stays in good condition, because this is a little bit of me. I'm very proud of owning this. And then we get on to the DS collection. I'll start with the DS games first. I don't own many DS games. Actually, I will pull the games out of here as well. So there's a few that I've got which I don't have cases for. So I'll just show you them first. Okay, right. Rayman, Raven Rabbids 2, and Pokemon Ranger. And Pokemon Ranger. These two games actually came with the case which I have here, because they didn't know they were in them, so when I paid €1 for that, I got 2 games with it. Games that I do have cases for are Final Fantasy, 4 Heroes of Light, for the DS. Very, very good RPG, very good story. It's quite typical really for it, but the game is awesome, and I got this at a local sale very cheap, and it was actually sealed. And I thought I'll open it to play. And in there you see some of which I am going to talk about later. Again, full complete and everything. Resident Evil Deadly Silence. So it's the Resident Evil 1 game, but for the DS, and the manual is massive. It has a massive, massive manual. And the game works very, very well actually on the console, and it's very cool the way that sometimes you get to use the stylus as well to kill zombies. That's like knife strikes. It goes into a first person mode. Pokemon X. Enough said. Bravely Default. This is Square Enix doing something right. This is one of the best RPGs that I have actually ever played, and I've put so many hours into this and I still need to finish it up, and it is so good. Characters are fantastic and the game is just awesome. The only thing I don't like is you don't get a manual in this. The manual is actually on the game, which I don't like about a lot of these 3DS games, but you do get a Bravely Default quick guide here. And also it does use QR cards as well. Yeah, QR cards for it, so they came with this collector's edition. And last but not least, smeg. And last but not least is Senran Kagura Boost. And you just see how Japanese this game is. And this game is just a laugh. I've played this so much and it just makes me laugh every time that you play it. You're big-breasted schoolgirls who are ninjas, and it's a beat 'em up. And when you go into boost mode, you're wearing nothing but a bikini and you're there with your ninja weapons fighting loads of people. The game is highly addictive, very fun, and it's got a great sense of humour. And I do recommend for anyone who sees this game, don't be put off by the weird front cover. It is hilarious and it's worth getting. And the other thing I want to talk about is one of these, and I do believe, especially if you own a 3DS, that you pick up one of these, because these are good for games that weren't released in your region, and if you don't own an original DS, you're unable to play like games from America or Japan, so you can download them and play through this. This is the R4i for the 3DS, and I have a 2GB SD card, and what this is, it's a flash card that allows you to play ROMs, more or less. So if there are games that you want to play on, but you can't due to the region, and you only have like a 3DS, it's perfect for that. You can't play 3DS ROMs on this though. Can't be done. Well, it can be done, but the cards are really expensive, and they can only run one game at a time. You can't put multiple games like you can on this. So I've put a few games on this which weren't released in England, stuff like some of the Dragon Quest games, some mainly are the RPGs, and the Book of Ease, books 1 and 2. And that is my video for my Nintendo Handheld collection. Like if you liked, dislike if you disliked. Remember to share, subscribe, comment. If you have any other comments, like, you know, like other games that I should really look into getting for the Game Boy Advance or Game Boy or any others, put it in the comment below. I will be looking into getting them. And also feel free to follow me on my Twitter page at Bulletmarv Retro. And feel free to follow me on Collections. My name's Bulletmarv on there, and RetroCollect.com, where my name is also Bulletmarv. And I'll leave links to all those in the description below. Thank you for watching. I've been Bulletmarv. Keep on gaming.